ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what, told you I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm backed up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up.
Hello. Fred, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you real good, Marie.
Good. Hello, this is Marie. Welcome to another edition of Incarceration to Incorporate Ink to Ink. First of all, I would like to give a shout out to Mr. Hall for allowing us to come on and to share our stories. And this is a safe space for us to share our stories. And I would like to thank AB because he's the brainchild of Ink to Ink, Incarceration to Incorporate, and my co-host Julius Campbell, who is not here tonight. And I would like to thank Mr. Fred Green for filling in, and thank you so much, Fred Green. And matter of fact, his organization is Filling the Gap, and he's a part of OAA, Offenders Alumni Association. So I would like to say thank you all for tuning in. Please click that share button and share this broadcast. So, Mr. Savory, hi Fred. First of all, hi Fred, how you doing?
What to do, Marie? What's up, Ink the Ink family? We glad to be in the house tonight, and man, we got a special guest with us, man, Mr. Savvy Shabazz. And man, I work with Savvy with Just Leadership USA. We are leading with conviction cohort 2023. Ain't that right, Savvy?
Yeah,
that's right. Man, that's going to be the best one because guess what? We set the table. Didn't we set the table? No more sitting at other people's table, but we created our own table for 2023. Right. And so, it's a privilege and an honor. This brother is coming all the way from Kentucky to share his story, tell us a little bit about what he got going on so we can pick up what he putting down. And, man, I'm telling you, it's a privilege, man, because Savvy is doing some phenomenal things in a Kentucky. And I'm talking, he's not only just empowering, but he's changing systems. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, Marie.
Oh, that's really good. So, Mr. Savvy, as Fred once said, you're going to share your story. So I just want you to introduce yourself and tell me your affiliation with Incarceration.
Good evening, everyone. I first want to thank you all for offering the opportunity to come into your space and be able to share my story. It's a real special feeling to be able to get that story out to individuals, especially if it's going to change a person's life and change a person's perspective. But for those brothers and sisters that are in, just giving them some insurance that they can do their time constructively too. So I was sentenced to a total of 28 years for nonviolent drug offenses in Paducah, Kentucky. I served a total of 6 years. I've been to probably 9 different institutions throughout the state. And the shirt that I actually have on, I don't know if you can see it, Life Coach Each One Teach One Reentry Fellowship, that was actually designed in my prison cell. Again, I'm really big on doing your time constructively if you have to do time. Because a lot of the programming here in Kentucky, I can honestly say we got this term called fake it till you make it. And if that's what the parole board requires of me to do, then that's what I'm going to do, right? So you may see people in Alcohol Anonymous classes that's never taken a drink before. Mm-hmm. But if they want us in that class, and that's what we're going to do, right? So I can honestly say that and I stand on that. That there wasn't one program that I took that actually helped me get to where I'm at today. Mm-hmm. Really got me where I was at was education. I started studying a lot of sociology, a lot of psychology, learning how my brain works, and why I make the decisions that I make. And then I learned something from the heart. I learned a lot about our history. Our history.
Yeah.
So I had an opportunity. I'm born and raised about 4 hours away from here. I just came back. I was telling you I was resting. I've been in Paducah, Kentucky. It's about 4 hours away from Louisville, going kind of southwest. And it's a smaller town. Very, very small Black population, but that's where all of my family's at. That's where my roots is at. That's where I grew up at. I've been here in Louisville for about 15 years now. I'm from the largest projects in Paducah, Kentucky. They actually knocked down 7 buildings, and they're still the largest projects in Kentucky. Big shout out to Elmwood Court and all of my Elmwood family and my extended family and my friends in Paducah, Kentucky. Okay. I came up here by what I call a way of a government vacation. When they sit you aside and they give you some clothes that everybody wears and everybody looks alike on the compound. They ship you out to a plantation. They get you some on the job training, so to speak. And I ended up in a halfway house here once my custody level shot down. I went to a halfway house, Dismas Charities, which is actually one of the places I go back into and facilitate my curriculum of life skills into that facility. COVID kind of slowed us down. We're going to try to rev that back up. But
now, Sab, you said, not to cut you off, but you said something about Dismas Charities. So it's a Dismas Charities in Kentucky as well?
There's about 12 right here in Louisville, Kentucky.
So we got one here in Savannah, Georgia. Shout out to the staff at Dismas Charity. A lot of my partners came through Dismas Charity when they got a federal penitentiary, and so they do some phenomenal work over there. Yeah, we got one as well too. And that's another thing that I want to do is go back in and give some of those guys that opportunity. But I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah. So I was in that facility. I went out and worked at a place called Salvation Army. We did some demolition work to rebuild a new Salvation Army. They paid us 63 cents a day, and we found out that they got $3.2 million to do the demolition work. I had a problem with that. You just got $3.2 million to do the work, but you're going to pay me 63 cents a day. Yeah. So I went back in, and I got a job in-house, and I decided I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go back to school. I went to school and had a certification and some credits for blueprint reading and blueprint construction. But I laid in prison so long, I lost that skill set, and I lost the love for it. So I wanted to go back to school and get an education. I didn't know what I wanted to take. I just knew I wanted to go back to school. I talked to the case manager at Dismas Charities. He agreed to that. So I waited another 4 to 6 months before it went out, and the list came out. And my name wasn't on that list. And so I went back in his office as professionally and as humble as I could. And I asked the gentleman why my name was not on the list. And he informed me that because me and him had kept butting heads, he didn't feel like that I was college material, and that the University of Louisville and Jefferson Community and Technical College would eat me alive, and it would be a waste of time, money, and resources. I gently turned around and I went and stood in front of the director's office for about the next 3 hours. And I did one of the most gravest offenses you can do in corrections. I bucked count.
That's right.
I was like, I'm not reporting back to my bunk, And I was like, what's going on? So she asked me what was going on. I said, it's about my education. My name's not on this list right here. Yeah. She looked at me up and down. She was an older, seasoned sister. And she said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, young man. Yeah. Stay right here. I'm going to count you right here. She said, you can be sent back to prison for this too. I said, if the last time I checked, I'm already in prison. I'm just halfway home in a halfway house. I said, plus, you're not going to do nothing but send me back somewhere I already been anyway. So if that's what you want to do, then let's do it. Wow. She looked me up and down, and she went upstairs and she counted, came back downstairs and counted me. The director didn't come out for another 45 minutes, and he looked at me, and he went back in. I wasn't going down. Yeah. 30 minutes later, half hour later, he looked out again. He said, you want to talk to me? I said, yes, sir. He said, let me finish my lunch and I'll be right back out to get you. Mm-hmm. There was another hour went by. Knees buckling, feet hurting. He came out about an hour later and he said, come on back. What's the issue? Sit down with him and told him it was my education. Told him the same thing I just told you about what happened with the case manager. And he looks on my file and he says, well, it says right here that you can't go to college because he has in the computer on your file that the highest grade you completed was 11th grade.
Right.
My sister, Melissa Williams, she sent me a copy of my high school diploma.
Mm.
And I carried it with me throughout my institutional journey. And I handed it to him. I said, well, if that's the highest grade I completed, how did I get a high school diploma?
Right.
How did I also get these college credits? So I handed him my transcript from West Kentucky Tech. And so now he's looking like we got a problem. Houston. And it's not you, it's my case manager.
That's right.
So he told me, he said, this is what we're going to do. He said, I'm going to switch you case managers and I'm going to make a new list and I'm going to give you a shot. Long story short, I went out there, man. I got to study African-American history. I was the first person to graduate the African-American studies and earn that certification.
Yeah.
I made Dean's List. I didn't even know what Dean's List was in high school, man. I played sports, but as long as I had a 2.0, I was fine.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought I could get a 3.0 or 3.5 and definitely not a 4.0 or 3.8.
Wow.
So I'm getting awards, certifications, Dean's List. I won the highest award at that community college one can get for education. It was it was one of the highest awards that I won. And I'm like, I can do this. You know, and I started studying about sociology, groups of people. I started studying about deviant behavior. I started studying about the medical industrial complex, the prison industrial complex. And I'm like, hold up. I'm in the prison industrial complex. They're talking about me.
For sure.
How can I tear this system down?
That's right.
Because not only are they putting us in numbers, you know, they're putting us through, they're putting the whole families through the institution, right?
Savvy, I usually say, and I don't want to hold that thought, because I usually say that on these podcasts, that we got to stop saying the system is broken. The system is not broken. It's working exactly how it was designed, and we must break it. Exactly. And I was a 9th grade dropout. I went back to school and got my master's in social work. I didn't even think I could go to school. I didn't. And so when you talk about your education, I hear you, and I'm saying this to the ones that's in, the ones that's out, that's trying to make a decision. Education is the great equalizer. Education equals bans. Education equals currency. And if you get your education, it'll trump your criminal background.
It will trump. But I also find that my criminal background has also led me to some employment opportunities as well. That's been my PhD, my experience, right?
Yeah.
So I went out there, man, and I had this great sociology teacher, man, and I'll never forget, man, the stuff that we was learning in her class was blowing my mind, right? Her name was Professor Sharon Wallace. And I knew the way she taught class and the way she carried herself. She was an activist, you name it. I was like, she's not going to last at this college too long. So she actually bagged a book in a Kroger bag and slipped me a note in class and told me that this book was left outside of the halfway house by a gutter. I got back, I got the book before I went in, and it was Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow.
Jim Crow.
And I still have that book to this day that she gave me.
Yeah.
So it meant a lot, you know, when I seen her just recently about 2 years ago doing the Breonna Taylor uprisings, and I ran into her, you know, it just blew her mind. We got caught up. But I went on from there. I had some professors when I earned the certification in African American Studies. I had 2 professors, 2 brothers, Dr. Cooper, Dr. Hamilton. They sit me down and they told me, they said, we've been talking, and we don't know what's next for you after you graduate. But if you're going to the University of Louisville, we would ask that you look into the Pan-African Studies Department and meet Dr. Ricky Jones. He's the chair of the department. So I locked that name in. I had a full scholarship to an academic scholarship to go to the University of Kentucky. And they didn't have the program that I wanted, the Pan-African Studies or Black Studies. You know, you could have got a certification, but I wanted to go to school, right? And I never forget, man, I went there, and the first 3 days, it was rough, bro. Man, they sent me all over the campus. And at the end of the day, for 2 straight days, I didn't get anything done. Go here, go there. No, you should have went here. No, you should have asked for this. No, they should have gave you that. It was the runaround, right?
Mm.
So at that point, I'm like, man, I'm going to UK. It can't be this hard to get into college, right? And I had a professor to call me about 9 o'clock at night, and she talked to me, man, and she was like, come on out tomorrow, and I promise you, you'll get registered. She said, I'm going to be with you the whole time. She made some phone calls. I met with her. I got registered for classes, and she sent me over to the Pan-African Studies Department where Dr. Ricky Jones was at, and I met him. He met me on the elevator. To this day, we're real good friends. His birthday was yesterday. I'd like to wish him a happy birthday. One of the best people that you can meet. The brother mentored me the entire time I was at the University of Louisville. And I can paint this picture and make it look good, but I had some hard times up here too, especially in college. The Pan-African Studies at U of L, it was not a department. It was a family.
Mm.
And that's how those professors and that's how those students treated each other.
Okay.
Treated me like they had been knowing me for 25 years, man. It blew my mind. So I ended up finishing there. I got into some work while I was there. You know, I worked some jobs, paying a little bit of that. Now I had a job during the summer one time, pay me $8.25. And the type of labor that we were doing, they probably should have been paying at least $20 to $25 an hour then. And coming from the small town of Paducah at that time, the most money that I ever made, even welding, was $12.50, man. Yeah. And the highest that you could top out, I think, was $16.90. Mm-hmm. Got a job, man, through the Louisville Urban League. They had an initiative called the Zones of Hope. I was blessed enough to build that out. We work with young Black men ages 16 to 27, and we offered them leadership development skills, employment leads, and educational leads, right?
Yeah.
So funding ran out with that. That actually opened up the opportunity for me to meet a lot of people, be in a lot of different positions and spaces, but also comb through this community to these community centers and these boys and girls clubs and churches and meet a lot of people. And that's what I'm really big on, is building and maintaining relationships. And as you can see, since we've been around each other, you see how I maneuver in spaces, right?
Not only that, let me tell y'all something, Ink the Ink family. Everybody in our cohort done flew out to see this man. Just to spend a day with him, just to spend some time with him, to find out what he's doing. I've even called him like, okay, how you get this popping? How you do this and how you do that? And I'm saying that because your network becomes your net worth.
That's right.
You know, it's
stand on that.
I mean, about what you know, but that's important, what you know. But it's about who you know, who you bought with. Just like the plug on the streets. Yeah. On the other side, there's a plug.
Yeah.
And you got to just transition. Because the bag is out there in both parts. You take your hustle, whatever your get down was that got you in the chain gang, or if you free, or wherever you at, or if you just somebody trying to find your way, and you listening to this, you take that same hustle and you apply it to corporate America. So you got streets, you got corporate America, you put the two together and win.
That's right. That's right. You're exactly right. And that's how I carry myself when I'm in the community and when I'm meeting and greeting people. It's really important that I build and maintain those relationships, man. So that opportunity, you know, the funding ran out. I applied for a position at a place called Reimage. They gave me a skill set. And this was the first time, man, like I sit in a meeting and I just looked around. I was like, hold on. My supervisor looks like me. And everybody on the team looks like me. This is unheard of. Wow.
Yeah.
You know, so we work with individuals 16 to 24 that have had brushes with the court system, just kept them on the right track. And this is why I actually learned to do case management work.
Okay.
When I first went to school, I had to ask an 18-year-old how to help me send my homework to my teacher through email, because I didn't even know what the little paper clip meant in an email.
That's right.
And she showed me this in like 3 seconds. And I'm like, oh, you know, I was a little embarrassed, but she showed me, you know, she said, don't worry about it. I got your back. Yeah. So I got some opportunities when I was at Reimage. You know, I got to travel to Lexington. I got to travel to Frankfurt and be in some more spaces and continue to build that network out. But the biggest thing was building that skill set, learning case management. I got the opportunity to facilitate meetings, to take workforce education into some of the high schools and teach some of the students in some of those alternative schools workforce development skills. So now I'm in front of people speaking, and my speaking just got better and better the more I facilitated. She challenged me, shout out to Demetrius Sawazo, she challenged me to build out a session for our students called, and I named it Time to Talk. I still use it. And what we did was we played DVDs of Hidden Colors, 1, 2, 3, and I think it was 4 out then.
Boy, you got to play the hidden color. If y'all ain't hooked the hidden color, and you got buck breaking. You seen buck breaking?
I haven't seen buck breaking.
You gotta get buck breaking, and you gotta get the maroon. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed if you watch it, man. You doing your thing with them documentaries, man, and they're inspired. That's how I started getting into the African American space and learning about that stuff, man.
So it was a blessing for me, man, because I got this degree. I've been studying about Pan-African studies for the last 5 years at college, but then this lines right up with it. So when they're talking about these subject and issues, they're just clicking to me, you know? So we would play 15, 20 minutes of it. And I remember the first time, man, I was ready to throw in the towel. One student showed up. We done ordered about 4 or 5 pizzas, man, you know, drinks, and one student signed up. And I was like, this ain't gonna work. And she said, you can change this to however you want. That's why we implemented those DVDs. So when we started doing that, man, we would play like 15-minute excerpts of those, and then we would have a discussion. By the time that ended, it was no seats, wall to wall. The sign-in sheet was front, back, and another sign-in sheet.
Wow.
We went from ordering 3 or 4 pizzas to ordering 9 pizzas, and that wasn't enough. And then we got complaints from the GED teachers downstairs. They would ask me, what are you teaching these students? Because when they come down to our class, they're not interested because they're still talking about the topics that you're talking about in class.
Savvy, talk about, I want you to hop on it because this is important. When you talk about hidden colors, when you talk about hidden history, you know, when I look at it, you know, the self, when I study our history, and I learned like on hidden color, when you first work the first thing you learn, if you're a hidden color fan like I am, is in order to subjugate a people, you must make them believe they never contribute anything to society. And they won't. We ain't even talk about Willie Lynch yet. So I want you to touch on how you see and how you yourself, I want to do 2 things. Touch on how you see, how you feel yourself as it relates to your self-esteem and your self-concept has changed because you learned. Because you got a lot of people say, I don't want to talk about that slavery stuff. I don't want to talk about that. That stuff don't matter. So we got to debunk that first of all, because it do matter. I said the same game, different players. The system is still the same. It's like you read, if you talk about Dr. Francis Cress Welsing theory, it's racism, white supremacy. It's no separation.
No separation.
It's a global dynamic. We talked about it in one of our just leadership thing. So touch on how it's built your self-esteem, your self-concept, and how have you seen it in those students you were teaching?
Man, I can honestly say that was a transformation within myself when I started learning about the history and the culture of Black and brown people that look just like me. I never knew in K through 12, I never knew who Lewis Latimer was.
Right.
You know, I was told that somebody else that, you know, Thomas Edison was the genius. No, he had a helper that actually made the light filament that keeps the light on, and his name is Lewis Latimer. And
that was his drafts person, his blueprint draft person, like what you wanted to be.
Here's the catch. See, Black people couldn't get patents back then. So see, they was creating everything, and then their masters would go and get the credit for it because we couldn't, because we were not humans. We were not people. We could not get patents. And that's what we had to understand. So those studies put a pride in me that I never knew existed.
Wow.
When I walk in spaces now, head held high, chest full of air.
That's right.
I know who I am, and I know I know what I'm talking about, and I know what I'm here to get done.
That's right.
You know, and a lot of people can say, you know, that it's arrogance. No, it's confidence that was put back into me because that's where I come from, right?
Yeah.
And I seen it with the students too. You know, they loved it because they were like, you know, you have those stages, you know, first you're angry, you know, you feel like somebody just cheated you, which they did.
They did.
Somebody's lied to you from K through 12 the whole time, you know,
They did.
Abraham Lincoln into a hero. No,
Yeah.
he didn't sign the Emancipation Proclamation because he loved black people and he knew we were being done wrong. He did that so he could win. It was a strategy.
Yeah.
It was a strategy.
When you talk about the great emancipator, you really got to go behind the scene because it was the abolitionists that put the press on it. You talk about boxing it in. We use those terms. I'm going to box this dude in. I'm going to box this in. Nah, they boxed him in.
Yeah. So it was
Douglas, Lewis, Gary Harvison, a lot of different abolitionists that boxed him in and put the press on him. Mainly Frederick Douglass.
That's right. So we start learning about these individuals, right? And it blew these students' mind. And they had questions. You know, and they would come after class and someone would miss class and they would gather in front of my desk to ask me 500 questions, right? But I had them all because I had studied it at the community college. I studied it at U of L. I had studied these documentaries. And we had something in the palm of our hand and in front of us called a cell phone with Google app on it too. So we can find that. So it was a great turnout. I ended up getting into a lot of spaces, man. I never forget, man, I got selected to a national organization, Be Me, which stands for Black Men Engaged. It brought a lot of brothers in. That was my first taste of funding. They granted us $10,000 to keep our projects, our ideas we wanted to start going, and they gave us some training as well. I joined All of Us Are Done National. I didn't know what that was. And I'm like, I clicked on the link and I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that it's, and remember this number, 6. You mean to tell me it's 6 chapters around the nation of formerly incarcerated people that's fighting to tear the system down, that feel the same way I have, and they all have been to prison? Like, I'm like, what's going on? I got introduced to another organization, FICPFM, formerly incarcerated convicted people and families movement. And I'm like, no way. Here's another organization, people putting in work. Man, I got flown out to Oakland for the national convening, man. And I would say over 700 people showed up.
Wow.
And it blew my mind. I got to meet Oscar Flores. I got to meet Dorsey Nunn. I got to meet Seiko Odinga. I got to meet so many Susan Burton. I got to meet Daryl Atkinson. I got to meet so many people around the nation that's doing the same work I am. And you mean to tell me you just done 20 years and you were executive director over an entire organization?
That's right. That's right.
And Sister Kim Carter, she took the stage and I was like, oh, wow. They just gave you what? To help people just like us?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It blew my mind. And I never forget my supervisor, my direct supervisor, she told me, she said, here's your business cards. She said, I'm going to show you how to build your network out. She said, here's 50 business cards. She said, I need you to get these out to as many people as you possibly can. She said, but for every business card you give out, I need you to get one from whoever you gave one to. And when you come back, I'm going to show you how to build your network out. So when I got back, my next step was to sit down for that week. And all that information on those business cards that I got went into my contact list. Because she said, these cards are people. She said, you can't just put people on your mantle for months and let it collect dust. You can't leave people in your pocket and just throw your pants in the washing machine and wash them. She said, these are people. She said, 2 weeks from now, I need you to compose an email and follow up with these individuals. Let them know who you are and where you met them at and how you're looking forward to doing some work with them. And I still do that to this day.
Man, that's powerful, Savvy, because that's not, when we talk about shortcomings, that's my shortcoming. Like you, I meet so many people, but my follow-up with them is terrible. So you just empowered me, brother, because that's something I know in the back of my mind, but implementation is difficult for me. I guess because the way I feel is, you know, so many people have so many agendas. So many people, you know, they take so much intellectual property. They tend to use you, and it's always been my feeling of, and I guess it's the feeling that I have that, man, I'm gonna do this. Like, I don't have time to be trying to ride in nobody's coattail. But then when I hear you speak, It's like a village mentality. It's like, no, you need to use these people to get the way you need to be.
Yeah. So, man, I started attending those All of Us Are Done meetings. I started attending those FICPFM meetings, and I built a family. I built a network. And big shout out to both of them, man, because if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, I think there's like 29, maybe 30 chapters across the nation now. So you're talking about like from 2016, it was 6 chapters. 2023, there's like 29 chapters. And we was blessed enough to be challenged when we were in Orlando, Florida. We flew down there to assist Desmond Meade with knocking on doors so they could get that Amendment 4 passed that restored over a couple of million people their rights to vote in Florida. I was part of that. I got to canvas and knock on doors. I got to get on the Hustle app and learn what that was about. Phone banking, text banking, like they trained us, right? And so it expanded because I think 1,100 people showed up for that, man. Everybody formerly incarcerated. And 3 months later, man, I get a phone call from Miss Doris Canales about 4 o'clock in the morning. She said, "Sadly, we won." "What are you talking about, we won?" "I'm sleepy." She said Amendment 4 was passed in Florida.
Great
and I
work.
was part of that, right? So continue to meet with people. I left the place Reimage. I went back and was a professor at the community college that I worked at for like a year and a half, and got to work with some more students, got to have some more people. But I'm still building out Life Coach, Each One, Teach One, Reentry Fellowship, this same program. And I'm hearing a lot, you need to let it go. You're putting a lot of work into this. And I'm like, well, I work for you from 8 to 5.
Yeah.
I work on this once I get home and on the weekends. But they're seeing it grow on social media. They're seeing people talk about it. I'm out in the community on Saturdays and Sundays. This is what I'm promoting, right? So I became a walking resource. You know, you come home, I know the places to send you to and the people to send you to, because I had to go to those people for employment too.
Yeah, so you become the plug.
Exactly. I know how to assist you with food stamps because I had to assist myself with getting food stamps.
That's right.
I know how to go get a social security card, a birth certificate, because I had to go through all of this myself. I know specifically what temp services will hire you and which ones will not.
That's right.
So I'm not going to send you to the ones that will not, because I don't want to trigger your anxiety attacks, because that's what it did to me. I don't want to trigger your slight depression because all you're hearing is no, 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 no. Yeah. So I moved on from there, man. It wasn't so much of a good experience, but I did learn a lot. I learned how to do some annual reports, some budgeting and things like that. So it was more tools I'm putting into this toolbox. And I decided when I left that if it's not reentry or justice reform, you're just not going to get a lot of excitement out of Savvy. He's not going to be willing to do it and give you 100%. So I made that decision right then and there. And I picked up a job for 2.5 years with the Bail Project. So that was a new place here. I assisted with building that out, bailing people out, and trying to get rid of the cash bail system here in Kentucky, starting with Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm going to Frankfurt, I'm lobbying, I'm building relationships and this and that. And lo and behold, Dr. Ricky Jones, we'll go back to U of L, we're still buddies. He invited me to a place to eat. He called about 3, said, "What are you doing about 6:30? I said, "Nothing." He said, "Can you come to Brendan's Catch 23? It's down the street from where you live at. I'll be there." I walked in, he was in there, a couple of professors that I knew. But then I started seeing a lot of the judges around Louisville walk in. I'm like, what the hell did you invite me in here for? Then I seen the Attorney General, who's now the governor, Andy Bashir, walked in. And at that point, I'm like, this is the Attorney General, right? I'm like, why am I in here, right?
Yeah, that's prosecution.
Yeah, and I'm like, I seen Senator Morgan McGarvey, right? And I'm just like, why did you invite me in here, right? I feel out of place. He said, "I think you would get more out of being in here than I would." So we exchanged info with everybody. To my knowledge, I was just Savvy Shabazz, the community organizer, community advocate, right? Not knowing that I would, in the future, make trips up there and lobby and have to share my story in front of Morgan McGarvey. And I never forget, man, when I shared my story, I remember he looked at me and he said, "Savvy, are you shitting me?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my story." you know. So we gotta open up minds and change hearts when we go and lobby. You know, we strategize. And so we had this executive order that was passed in December of 2019 that restored over 200,000 people the right to vote in Kentucky. And I was there.
Yeah.
I didn't get my rights restored. And when Governor Andy Beshear asked me, he said, Savvy, did this executive order restore your rights? I said, no, sir. He said, well, why not? I said, we have an over sentencing problem. I said, and that clause says that once you complete your sentence, you can have your voting rights back. Here's the thing. I said, Governor Andy Beshear, people like me are not finishing their sentence. I know people that got 40, 50, 60. I was just on a panel just Wednesday with one of my relatives. Me and him combined have a total of 66 years over our head. And we're both out doing basically the same work, you know, helping people coming home from prison, you know, advocating for people coming home from prison that's been through the system. And we both have a total of 66 years. You add two more relatives to that, you're looking at 160 years in one family, right? So he told me, he said, give me a pardon across my desk. We'll take care of that. And at that point, I'm looking and I'm like, you're a politician at the end of the day, too. We're going to hold you to that. And so we got on it. And I'm still out in the community, registering people to vote, getting people to the polls, finding these people, you know, and we built a team. And we traveled to Hopkinsville. We traveled to Paducah. We traveled to Lexington. And we were doing the work, right? But we still didn't hear anything. I submitted my pardon in January. It's November. We still ain't heard nothing, right? But we launched a digital campaign, and this is the important thing. I had about 7 people. One of my homegirls committed to making phone calls. She would call there on a weekly basis and say, this is Savvy's friend. I'm calling to check on his pardon. We're trying to get his pardon signed. We had digital, Twitter. We tagged the governor. Savvy Shabazz just registered 60 people in your state today. Are you going to let this brother participate in voting? We got the right people. Media started asking. We started tagging media. Media was asking questions. Other organizations, ACLU, KFTC was in support. They're asking what's going on. And finally, he called November the 12th and he signed that pardon, man. I was sitting in the bedroom on the floor working, and he called. One of his workers called that Tuesday and said that he had to reach out. He said governors don't sign pardons usually until they're exiting out of office.
Wow.
We had to call you because we've gotten over 300 calls, texts, emails, and everything about your pardon.
Wow.
2 days later, he called while I was in the bedroom and he signed that pardon on November the 12th, about 2:40 p.m. And that took everything off of my record. I don't have any felonies on my record.
Congratulations, Savvy.
Man, I appreciate that, man. So
full rights restored too?
Yeah.
So you can strap up.
Hey, I'll be honest. At my age, you know, I get that a lot from people. Yeah, but did you get your guns right? I'm gonna be honest. What I need a gun for?
Yeah.
The type of world that I come from, I know what I needed a gun for.
Yeah.
I don't need a gun. You know, my gun is at ballot. That's what I'm shooting. I'm shooting ballots nowadays.
That's right.
One thing that we implemented, man, we was like, well, if we can get a pardon and we know the process, we can help other people go back and get their pardon signed too.
That's right.
And right now we are 3-0 with helping people getting their pardons. So I stuck to it, man. I took another job with an organization, program director. I ran the whole place, man. And it just didn't sit right to me, man. The mission and vision, it just didn't sit right with me. I felt like the people like us was being exploited. We've talked about that. So I had a decision to make. And I was like, you got an opportunity to step out on faith and stand on Life Coach, Each One Teach One Rinse You Fellowship and the work that you've built. When are you going to do it? And I had people ask me, what is it going to take for you to be focused on your program? And I was like, I don't have any money. I have to go to work every day.
Right.
And they found funding and I made that decision. And I've been out on my own 1 year and 7 months to this day, registering people to vote, assisting people while they're in, We have a communication system through JPay. When we have funding available, we provide stamps to those individuals so that they can communicate with their loved ones. We will provide a stipend if we have the funding available. A lot of times we don't have the funding. We want people to be comfortable and bring down that some of those things that trigger some of the issues. We have a involuntary servitude campaign that we just launched on Juneteenth. We're trying to remove the slavery clause out of the Constitution.
Yeah,
It states that we're still slaves because we have been convicted of a felony in the states, right? So
remove the exception.
Exactly. So the exception clause, abolish slavery clause. So we have that campaign going. We have the voting rights and restoration campaign. I do a life skills training in a local halfway house. Big shout out to New Legacy for making a way and opening up the door for me. But we also, last year, one of our biggest wins, we went inside the local jail, built a relationship with the staff. We went in and registered people to vote with voter registration cards. Those that were eligible, we registered them to vote. We built a relationship with the city council. Big shout out to Jacory Arthur. We built a resolution and it was passed by city council that allows us to do that. We built a relationship with the county clerk. They were on board. Board of Elections was on board. We got them the absentee ballots, and we were crushed for time too.
Right.
They got their absentee ballots, man, and people were able to vote. Because you have people inside of our local jails across the country that can't vote just because they can't afford a $12 or $25 or $100 bond.
Or they don't know one thing, Savvy, too, is that they don't know they can vote. See, in the state of Georgia, you can vote once you get our papers. And I want to do something real quick. I want to give some shout outs to the people in the comment because you got some comments. You know, you got a CO said hello. It's a good one. Megan said that this is good. It's outstanding. She understands. Julius Hall said awesome testimony. And Ellis says you are an inspiration to system impact the individual. So proud of you. Keep grinding, my brother.
Thank you all, brothers and sisters. I really appreciate that. Big shout out to every last one of you, and thank you all for tuning in too. But yeah, that's what we do, man. And you know, to those that were eligible, we got the absentee votes, and their ballots were counted. So this year, not only are we going in and get more people registered and possibly do the absentee, but we're talking about throwing away the absentee because we're trying to get a polling site inside of the jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Savvy, I heard something about, and I don't know, you gotta get some clarity, man. I heard something about them naming a day after you or something, man, in Kentucky.
Yeah, man. In 2018, man, I got a big shout out to the LSU Tigers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I got a room upstairs with nothing but that stuff in it, my awards and stuff, man. And that's one of the ones, man. So yeah, June 7th is Savvy Shabazz Day in Louisville, Kentucky.
Man, shut up. Man,
man. There was a group of guys, man. Shout out to my BB brother class of 2018, the realest class, and we connected with a national organization that came in and they wanted to uplift the work of some of the brothers that's doing work in the community, and I was one of those brothers, and so they supported our work. They gave us the training. They brought us out to DC and gave us some training, gave us a network to connect to, and they also named a day after us.
Yeah, man, that's what's up. And that is powerful.
It's a Shabazz Day here, man. I don't think it's even hit me before, man, because usually I don't even do nothing on June 7th. I don't think I've quite figured out exactly what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, that's a blessing, man, to have a day named after you. And I see that as just a prelude to what's to come. You said you study sociology, and as you know, Dr. King was a sociologist.
Yes.
So, I think that work, when I hear the work that you're doing, the work that everybody is, people that's listening now that's doing phenomenal work, don't take your hand off the plow, you know what I'm saying? And have a seed of expectation that if you're doing a great work, you should expect. Sometimes we give so much, Savvy, that we don't even think that we should expect anything. No, that's like a farmer going to put a seed in the ground and then say, hey, I don't need nothing to grow.
Yeah.
I don't need to grow. He expect something a bud to pop up. He expect that earth to crack with something that's going to produce a harvest. So, man, I want to give a shout out to you, man, and I want you to touch on, as we get ready to land, I want you to touch on Man, it's something that I've been listening to a lot of Ali clips lately. And man, Ali spoke truth to power. So tell the people a little bit about the Ali Center, and we'll get ready to kind of land the plane a little bit.
So here in Louisville, of course, it's home of I don't even call him Ali. When I talk about him, I call him the GOAT,
The GOAT,
greatest of all time. And for the majority, people know who that is when you say the GOAT, right? But yeah, I'm blessed enough to live in his hometown, man. And they have a Ali Center, Muhammad Ali Center here. And I utilize that center. I need to go. I may go tomorrow. And when I get stressed, man, when I'm feeling down and burnt out, man, I can go in there, man. It usually takes about 3, sometimes 4 hours. And when I tell you, every time I come out, I've learned something new about him, right? But the way they have it set up in there, man, it feels like, I won't go all into detail because we'll go way over time. But it's set up, man. It feels like he grabs you by the hand and says, Savvy, come walk with me, man.
Mm.
I feel like he's walking right beside me when I'm in there, man. And that's the way it's set up to make you feel, man. So if you get an opportunity to come to Louisville, make sure you stick your head in that Ali Center. And it's not just about sports. It's about his legacy. It's about everything that he done for, like, as far as helping people. I didn't know that he helped people in third world countries.
Oh yeah.
You know,
man, they said Ali will take and be walking and have a mink coat on, and somebody homeless, he'll take it off and give it to him, wads of money in his pocket, and then he might just give a homeless person just a wad of money. Man, there's so many similar stories, man, dealing with I did a Hidden Colors forum one time too, and I had that in my mind that I need to reinstitute that expose people to our culture and our heritage. Yeah. And like you myself, I got on in 2021.
Congratulations.
One of our local attorneys, Nancy DeVella, shout out to Nancy DeVella with DeVella Law Firm, does a lot of criminal justice stuff, and do expungement clinics and pardon clinics. And she said, Mr. Green, I see your work. I'm gonna do your pardon for free. And so I got my pardon full right restored. So man, this is exciting. But Savvy, let me tell you something, man. We got 3 audiences that I want you to speak to.
Okay.
Before we close out. We got an audience of people that are in the system, right? They're in the belly of the beast, they're in the whale, they're in the fish, whatever you want to call it. I want you to speak to that audience, okay? Then we have an audience of people who might be just looking on, their justice system impacted. They're trying to find their way. They don't know which way to go. They might know which way to go. They might learn a lot from this session. I want you to speak to them. Then on the next, the third population of people I want you to speak to is those that have the power to make a difference. Those stakeholders, those NGOs, them CBOs, for those are community-based or the non-governmental organization, governmental organization, all the people that can make a change and have the power and the influence to do so, but maybe doing something and may not be doing something about it. I want you to shift their paradigm too. All right. So the first group is people incarcerated. Second group, those that are justice system impacted, that are trying to find their way, or just don't they on the right road. They just need a little push to keep going. And them stakeholders, man.
So to my brothers and sisters that's in my currently incarcerated people, much love and much respect. You're coming home one day. And for those of you that's not, there's still work to do. I suggest do your time constructively. What does that look like? Read as many books as you possibly can. Get the information. Put the pen to the paper. There's a fight in there every day. And I'm not talking about a physical fight. I'm talking about policy change. If you can be if you can be a certified legal aid, study that, because you are in the system. So why not study it? Learn those books. Learn about your case. How did you get in this case? Learn the ins and outs, what those case numbers mean, what it takes to file. Learn the system that you're in and get in as many programs as you possibly can. So if you do have an opportunity to serve out or see that parole board, you'll have something to stand on. you at least begin the process. So however that looks, do your time constructively. You know, you have time that you, what I call dead time. Those are individuals that's going to lay in that cell block and they're going to do nothing. Do your time constructively. Get around some people that's thinking the same way that you're thinking. Start working on your business plan. There's a lot of different opportunities in there, and take advantage of them if they're in there. If you've taken every class at this particular institution, put in the transfer and go to the next one and take all the classes and everything that they offer too. You know, if they offer construction, if they offer carpentry, if they offer horticulture, agriculture, and you've taken all of that and there's nothing else to do, put in the transfer and move to another one and utilize everything that they have. Use the system to build your resume out. Don't let that system use you to push their numbers and show that this works. So much love and much respect to you. And I hope to see you all soon. Much love and peace to my brothers and sisters that's in. To my brothers and sisters that's been in and they're out and they're trying to find their way. Meet with people like me and Fred. Find out what we're doing. Look up these podcasts. Join those organizations like All of Us Are Done. Join those organizations like FICPFM, Forward Justice, Florida Rights and Restoration, Free Her, Women on the Rise, and so on. There are opportunities all across the nation with people just like you that are putting in work. If you have been in for the last, no matter how long it is, you have a testimony. You have something that you can give back to your community. People want to hear these stories, but you also can create an opportunity for yourself as well, right? There's a lot of things that you can learn from being in the streets. And I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'll go into the powerful people. I had a student at Reimage. I won't say his name, but he stood in front of my desk every day, and he always kept a funky book on my desk. And the students would come in and they pick it up and they read it, and they want to talk. Well, they were trying to get him a job at this place called MSD. He was talented, man, and I could see the education in him. And I knew if he got that job, he was just going to clock in every day. He'd have never got a master's, bachelor's, PhD, not even associates, because he's going to clock in every day for 20 years and retire. I asked him about school. He said he didn't like school. He said he couldn't do science. He said he couldn't do mathematics, said he wasn't going to do nothing but mess it up, and that's why he's in there working on his GED now, because he can't do it. It frustrates him. I said, close the door. When I say close the door, my students knew it's time to get real. And I asked him, I said, you out there in them streets doing what you do, ain't you? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, let me ask you something. I said, how many grams is in a kilo? And long story short, we broke that all the way down to the lowest number. Same thing with cooking. And I told him, you took 3 chemical substances and you completely changed the molecular formula and you made a biocarbonate smokable product called crack. You can do science. You can do math. You can do it. I said, you just done decimals, multiplication, fractions, and everything. You can do this. And he looked at me and he said, Mr. Shabazz, ain't nobody never talked to me like that. And he got registered for school. He graduated last year, man. He's got his bachelor's degree. I don't know if he's going to go forward or not, but he did get his associates. The next step was getting his bachelor's. We have to talk to our young people in the way that the language they understand. For those people that's in power up in Frankfort, that's the capital of Kentucky, we have to, and they have to, open their hearts and their minds. People are coming home. We have addiction issues in our community. We have a houseless issue. We have mental health issues. PICS is a big one. Post-incarceration syndrome. If you've been incarcerated, 9 times out of 10, you suffer from this. These are the individuals that control your communities. Get in their faces. Build those relationships. A lot of times they simply just do not know what's going on in your household, in your school, or your community, because they're up here making decisions. No one should be able to make decisions for us without us. Get in their faces. Go visit your lobby. Go visit your state representative. Go to city council meetings. These are the people that control your communities. Why wouldn't you want to know who they are? Share your stories with those individuals, because once you change a person's heart, then you can start changing policies.
Amen. Amen. And Brother Seth, you got a podcast. tell people a little bit about your podcast. Hope to get on it soon, and also how the people can find you and how can they reach you.
Man, you're definitely gonna be on the podcast soon. So what we're doing right now, there was a song by Nas and Scarface years ago.
Yeah.
It's called Favor for a Favor.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing right now. You know, I jumped on your podcast. Now I gotta have you on mine, right?
That's right.
You know, how can you tell me no? Hey, he got on mine. We gotta work, right? So yeah, I have a podcast that we launched March 1st. It's called Welcome Home. And what we do is we interview individuals that are formerly incarcerated. If you have not been formerly incarcerated, 9 times out of 10 you will not be on my podcast. It's like FUBU. It's for us, by us.
Yeah.
Right? Because too many times police officers, judges, prosecutors, corrections officers, wardens are the ones that parole officers. These are the people that's telling our stories. And they don't have any lived experiences. So we're going to uplift those stories. And we're not only going to uplift those stories, we're going to share those successes too. And what your experience was while you was incarcerated, because a lot of times people will make it look like that this is the greatest place ever. But actually, you're a warden, so you're invested. It's like a store. If me and you open up a store, brother, what's the first thing we need? Customers. If we open up a jail or a prison, what's the first thing we need? Customers. So do you really care about whether I make it off of parole? You'll retire off of this. You need people to come in and be on your caseload. That's not the case with this podcast. It's Welcome Home. And we're uplifting those stories and those experiences and those success stories in the end. And I love asking that question at the end, what are you doing now? Because we hear all the horrific stuff. And then at the end, you can tell, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you, Savvy, man. It's been a pleasure. And this ain't the ink, man. And keep on doing the work that you're doing. Keep pressing. And like I tell the people, say, if you keep pressing, sooner or later, you're going to get a blessing. That's Ink the Ink. Thank you, Savage Shabazz, for showing up. Thank you, Ink the Ink family. And we see you next time, 6 p.m. on Friday. We out.
Like this.